Hey Queen, welcome to the Find Your Voice Show with Coach Vuyanzi. I'm about to introduce our guest, but before that, make sure you subscribe, like, comment, and share this show with another Queen. I'm introducing Grace Nzula, all the way from Kenya. She is a double award winner in 2021 for the most inspiring female HR and HR trendsetter by IHRM in Kenya. Grace is the founder and lead consultant at Atarah Solutions Limited, a human resources consulting and training firm. And Grace is the host of the Get It Right with Atarah Solutions, a webinar series that seeks to demystify issues in entrepreneurship and employment. This takes place every Tuesday between 8 p.m. and 9 p.m. East African time. Finally, Grace is passionate about entrepreneurship and believes in equipping the great risk takers of the world with information that can help them scale the heights. And now, get your seatbelts ready, get your notebook, get your pen. School is in session. So hello, everyone. I am so excited for this interview. And you heard who we have. And let me just say this about this lady, this queen that's up here. I always see her asking the questions of others. So I am so happy that I get the chance to have her in the hot seat and I can be the one who's interviewing her. So there's all different layers of excitement that's going on here. And Grace, the way I like to ask all my guests is to start off with a quote, maybe one of your favorite, but a quote that's meaningful at this time.
All right. And thank you very much for having me. I'm really, really excited to be sitting on the other side. This is really, really, really exciting. And it's really awesome to see you again, Mama. I have totally missed you. And yes, so you asked about my favorite quote. I actually have two, my all-time. So the first one is, you never know how strong you are until strong is your only choice. And then no matter how you feel, you have to wake up, dress up, and show up. Those two are just my all-time favorites. And probably it's because I'm a very consistent person. So what you see today is what you'll see probably tomorrow and the day after. And even if I need to do something and I'm not into it, and for example, I'm not too tired, but maybe sometimes you just want to take a break. Of course, I take a break, but sometimes work needs to be done, like I can't sleep in when it's a weekday. I need to go for a meeting. So even when I'm totally sleepy, I'll just go for the meeting, So yeah. And I try to show up every time. I try to show up in my life. I try to show up in my work. I try to show up with my friends. I try to show up for my family. So yes.
And what about, Grace, that first quote too, about repeat it again, because it was something about that one that got me too. Say that first one again about strength.
You never know how strong you are until strong is your only choice.
Talk to us about what that quote means to you too, and how it's in operation in your life.
Yeah, so I run a business, and sometimes when you're running a business, you have all these things that need to be done. And sometimes you wonder whether you even have the capacity to pull them off. Sometimes you wonder whether you have even the will to keep going. And you have to look at your inner strength, rely on that strength that you never really knew you had. That is exactly what I go for. So no matter how strong, you never know how strong you are until strength is your only choice. So you got to show up, whether you're feeling you don't feel like doing it. There's a time during work, I have told this story before, maybe you've heard it. There's a time when I was an employee, the hardest thing to do was show up and actually smile. It was such a rough time.
Wow.
And I am a smiling machine. I smile all the time.
I can't imagine you not smiling, because ever since I've met you, there's like always a smile on your face. Please talk about that.
So, and this is the time when the hardest thing to do was actually show up to work and smile. So, and that is the day that every morning I woke up and told myself, you're a strong woman. You can do this. You got this. So, and somehow I pulled through the day. Somehow a day became a week. Somehow it just flew. And here we are today.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. I'm appreciating your transparency. No, I had not heard that story. And I'm appreciating your transparency because this show is called the Find Your Voice Show, right? For Black women leaders. And so many times there's a certain face that you have to have, right? And so there is this notion that apparently they don't have any problems. I mean, everything must be perfect. Everything must be happy. And let me make sure everyone's knowing that the reason why you may hear a little, those of you, especially in the United States, like, which state is her accent from? No, it's not from a state in the United States. And hold on, this is one of the pleasures of being outside. You hear that siren? I'll tell you what that is in a second. Oh my goodness. I'm going to press pause just for a moment. Now, what we were talking about before we were rudely interrupted by the village alarm is that so many times we have that facade, right? That facade, but you were just open enough to tell us there were times that you didn't feel like even smiling. And those are the times, because I actually think it's pretty ironic that that alarm went off, that our alarm clocks of destiny are going off with inside of us. Because I know you as this person who smiles, it sounds so foreign to me that you're saying that you didn't smile. And that means you weren't even living in who you were. Like you weren't, I would guess like you weren't Grace. So right here, I think it's a great point for me to ask you that point of not being able to smile till now, this smiley person that we see, and very, it's not just your smile, it's your warmth, it's your energy. Can you take us through some of that, of how you found your voice from being that person to who you've become now?
And yes, I had one thing that I have always had is a very rich emotional bank account.
Ooh.
I have
writing this down. Class is in session, by the way. Class is in session for those of you watching. This isn't entertainment. This is a class. Go ahead. That's awesome. Whoa.
Yes. So my support system is one of the things that helped me get through that, because I used to have friends who would like listen to me when I'm venting. I used to have people who used to ask, how are you? And at that point, I really relied on their strengths. I remember one of my very good friends would call me every morning. And to date, we actually talk every single morning because she needed to confirm that I'm actually awake and going to work. I had no choice of quitting work. I needed the money. I had no choice of actually even looking for another job. I wasn't feeling ready. I actually think right now, Vuyanzi, if I went for an interview at that point, I don't think I would have gotten the job.
Wow.
I don't think I would have. Like, my confidence was a bit low. I kind of saw a lot of impossibilities. But then I had this support system that really made sure that I'm not losing it. They made sure that I'm not losing hope. And then I personally am also a very strong person. So I rationalize things a lot, which is sometimes not very good. But I looked at situations and I'm like, okay, this is what I'm dealing with now. Do I have solutions right now? What choice do I have? You know? So I wrote down my choices and I said, what can be implemented now and what can be implemented later? So I remember May of 2016 was the hardest month of my life. Wow. And somehow I managed to get through that month. And by around June, July, I was smiling again. I had found my voice. So it took a lot of just allowing myself to go through the process. It took a lot of learning to rely on my friends, and also my friends just being able to ask, how are you? You know, and just my friends being able to say, hey, wake up, go to work. And I would remember, okay, fine, yes, I actually do need to go to work. And part of how I did it is I have like 10 notebooks, and I wrote down the things I was going through. I wrote down the possible solutions, and then I started prioritizing. You know, what can be implemented now? What will it take to implement this? Do I have the resources to implement that? Do I have the strength to implement that? what are the things that I have to do? And probably that somehow made me want to keep going, because I knew, okay, fine, I am going through this now, but I know in about 2 months or 3 months, I'm able to do something different. And then I also looked within, what do I have within my control? What are some of the things that I can do right now as a person that can help me get to where I want to go? So I said, even if I need to quit this job, there's a certification I need to do. I don't have it. I don't have the money right now, but in about 2 months, I'm able to enroll. So what can I do now? I can actually look for a college. I can I look for an institution that offers this. All right. And then I can do my paperwork as a way to enroll in July when I have the money. So I looked at the situation, came up with solutions, and started qualifying them. You know, this can be done now, this cannot be done now. But that was, it kind of helped me get through that season.
Okay, I want everyone to notice that as she was talking, I took this out because you have just, anyone watching, what Grace has just given you is worth about $1 million. So make sure that you write this down. So one thing, I just want to recap what I'm hearing you say, because you said some really deep and important things. You said first you acknowledged the emotions and the feelings that you were feeling behind all of this. So you did not deny what you were feeling. And I think that's so important, because a lot of times we are guarded, especially if you're in a leadership position, even at work, you're guarded. So you can't let everyone, it's best not to let everyone into your very personal space. However, in that acknowledgement for yourself, you must have shared it with people, right? So you had that friend that you still speak to in the morning, that emotional support. So Grace is giving you some guidelines here, and someone who you could be open with. I would imagine that for her to be calling you every day, that you must have told her something that said, I need to call my friend every day. And I want to just hover over this, because I don't know if enough people, I've coached a couple of people, actually one person that said she had no emotional support. Before I even go on to some of the other steps you said, I just want to ask, is there a way that you were able to get like some steps that you did to even get this kind of emotional support? Were these people already in your lives? Did you acquire them during that time? How did you get these people in your life?
So, of course, these are my friends, yeah? These are my friends who we had been friends for a while. And we were, like I said, it's an emotional bank account. Just 1 second. So it's something you do when, it's actually something you invest before you can withdraw. It's like going to the bank. You cannot go to the ATM to withdraw anything if you have not put anything into it. So yes, you're going to complain that you do not have support system, but who are you being support system for? Who are you providing it to?
Ooh. Wow. Wow.
So for you as a person first, because this is an investment you make before you can actually withdraw. So how are you there for people? You know, have you allowed people to trust you? Are you somebody people can rely on? Are you a confidential person? So these are things that you need to do before you can actually go to withdraw.
You're dropping some gems right now, because what I'm hearing you say is you became that support first, and then when you needed it, it was there, right? When you drop those seeds, when you plant the seeds, they have no choice but to grow. I love this. I love this. The other thing that you said is, after going, you had that emotional support. You talked about analyzing the situation, and analyzing is good. So there was this logic. You didn't allow yourself to get so much in your feelings that you didn't step back and look at the situation and say, what do I have before me? But I heard that you analyzed it. You said, what do I have control over? What don't I have control over? What do I need to prioritize? What can I do now? What solution is there? First of all, you sound like you were being your own coach. Did you get coached during this time? What the heck? You put people like us out of business. Just tell me how, what gifting is it? Because not everyone's able to do that, Grace. Not everyone can do that. But what do you think that thing is that even in your feelings, even in your non-smiling zone, that you were still able to do all these things? Please tell us that secret.
I think it just goes with personality, in all honesty, because I happen to be a logical person and also an emotional person. So I'm able to think with my head and not my heart. And then I can also now bring in the heart. So probably it's just personality and the fact that I'm in HR. So we are normally taught to just wait. What does the business need and what does the person need? Can you merge the two? So probably that is what I really have no secret. I do not have a coach.
Well, you coached yourself through that. And I just want to say this because I think everyone can learn from what you just said. You said you took what you already knew professionally and you applied it to your life personally. It's not always easy to do that. Grace, that's a gift. Because so many times I have coached people and I've said, well, what would you do if this happened in your professional life? And they're like, well, actually, I've never thought about that. I'm like, you can transfer that situation right there. You already have the skills. You already have the training. You already have the capability. Now, what would that be? So I love the fact that you said that. And then the other thing I believe I heard you say was that you were journaling. So talk a little bit about journaling. Was it something that you always did, something that you picked up during that period, and what it does for you?
Right. So since I was a young girl, I wanted to become a writer. And
we're finding out the tea right now. She is dishing the tea on herself. I didn't know that. Okay, I'm going to be quiet.
Actually, I wanted to become a journalist. So, and part of that was going to be a magazine article writer. And then unfortunately, that did not come to be. But now I grew up in a proper African Kenyan setup where you actually do not talk back, where you actually are not necessarily allowed to air your feelings as when we were growing up. Because I remember sometimes you're being beaten, and if you cry, you'll actually get double punishment. So
that's a proper, for some of us, Black American home too. I just want to tell you that.
Exactly. So I think I started just learning to write. I would write experiences either for myself or for other people. So at that point, now sometimes when I'm in bad space mentally or I'm going through a phase, I normally just write my feelings down. And then after that, I'm able to actually now get a perspective. In fact, I write to vent, but if I look at it the next day, I'm able to now think, oh, wait, okay, so this is what's happening, and I'm able to actually name that feeling. And you know what you can name? You can tame.
Grace?
Yeah.
In case you didn't know, you are a coach. Do you feel any calling in your life to be a coach?
I actually would love to be a coach, yes. I have discovered that.
Okay, I'm just going to say that, folks, this is unplanned. This is just what I'm hearing her not say, is that she is a coach. So because with what you already have, and then, you do yes, anyone can be a coach, but I believe in the training too that goes along with that. But with the way you think, it's so much value. Like, people will get so much value from this right now, what you're saying, because the way you map things out, it's not natural for all of us to be able to do that. I'm just telling you, that's amazing. And also, I need to do this little disclaimer, this little public service announcement for everyone. really this public service announcement is for Americans, because I know it's going to happen here. Some of us got spankings growing up. It wasn't abuse. It was that our parents in the United States, for some of us, not all, because I've met a lot of Black Americans who've never been spanked. So number one, I was hard-headed. I did talk back. I did stay out late. I did break curfew. Listen, there's a whole lot of things I did. And this was to curb that behavior in the home so that when I left the home, my behavior would not be curbed by the system. So those of you who are like, oh my gosh, you guys were, no, we weren't. Thank God I didn't have anyone to just hit me out of their anger out of life. It was out of punishment. And I know in America now, and this is a whole long service announcement, we are like, don't touch the children. You can have your opinion, but please keep that opinion off these comments that I'm not interested in. I will delete that comment in a heartbeat. This is about where you are and how we got to what has molded us into who we are being. Public service announcement for Americans is now over. Now back to you, Grace, because I had to do that because I already know what goes on here. So anyway, when you said talking back, yeah, I tried, but it didn't really work out for me. It didn't work out for me. But my kids, that's a whole nother interview. And I know we're coming on the downside of when I'm saying the downside of this, soon in a few minutes, we have to wrap up. But you've talked about so many areas, times in your life in which it has molded you, right, into this wonderful, not just beautiful on the outside, but on the inside, and just well-defined woman that we see. Now, I want to say, when I'm looking on LinkedIn, I'm seeing you receive awards. I'm seeing you hosting big events. When I have been on the show, at times I've snuck in, snuck out on your show that you have weekly, that you started during the pandemic, and everyone can read Grace's bio in the description. The time I spoke, there were well over 100 people on that Zoom. I want to ask you, to the point that you are now, is there, though, out of all these things that have happened in your life, a defining moment? Like, for instance, you said 2016, or was it 2017? Anyway, May of 2016, I think you said. I don't know if you count that as a real defining moment. You didn't really tell us, and I don't know if you want to tell us what exactly happened in May of that year, but is there one highlight that you can say, this was the defining moment that brought us to the person who we're getting to know right now?
I honestly, Coach, I do not think it will be one defining moment. I am a person who keeps learning from experiences. I keep learning from people I meet. I'm a student of life. I'm a student of experiences. I'm a student of every day. So can I point out one moment? Not necessarily one, winning those awards was the defining moment. It was an affirmation of the work that we had done. Some of the things that I've been able to do. Last week, we hosted big CEOs from Kenya at an event I was a moderator at. And some of these things, because you get to be up there, you get to get the nuggets, you get to learn, you get to concentrate, you get to prepare the questions like you're doing now today, Coach Vuyanzi. So it is, I think, different defining moments for me. And some of them are painful, some of them are joyful, And in fact, I just got an appointment to a board this month. Which was quite a surprise. I had no idea it was coming. Those things that I did about a year and a half back. So, and I got appointed this month. So I'm pretty excited about that.
Congratulations.
And I'm like, thank you. So, and this is the first time I'm actually serving at a board in public sector, and that is for the government. So this is pretty amazing for me. And I'm here saying, God, thank you,
Well, you need a t-shirt, and I've seen this before, like, I'm a pretty big deal. That's what the t-shirt needs to say. I'm a pretty big deal. so that people can know you're a pretty big deal. You are.
And we need you back on the show, by the way. You're coming back on the show, right?
I am down for all of that, because everything is energy, and I want people to see this person called Grace that you are seeing before you and how she is speaking, and just if you're listening to the transformation that she's made in her own life. Listen, 2016, that was the year you said, right? 2016 wasn't even 20 years ago. It wasn't even 10 years. Sorry, it wasn't even 10 years ago. It was just, I'm good at math, I promise you I am. It wasn't even 10 years ago. And to hear her speak about this, right? And then you guys are looking at this woman here, there is hope. There is such hope. And then you're telling us about you were meeting with all the big CEOs in Kenya. Let me remind those, and I'm so sarcastic. This is my New York sarcasm about to come out. Kenya is a country in Africa, everyone, okay? It's a country of approximately 60 million, between 55 and 60 million people. And so if Grace is telling you that she was hosting part of the MC, what do we call it? Host or MCing or?
Host, moderator?
The moderator for some of the CEOs in Kenya. That means a whole country, y'all, that she was just moderating and speaking to us. So I'm going to ask you, okay, you have just a few more minutes to hang in there with us, because now you done brought up something else. Okay, can you just tell us, just bring us to that moment. Just tell us about what you were thinking, what you were feeling, what were you taking from that moment of looking at these you are already accomplished, and then even looking at these accomplished people. Just bring us there just a little bit, please.
For me, I think the first thing that at that point, or actually after as I was driving home, was good job, Grace, number one. Like, congratulations, Ma, you pulled it off. And number two was, Mama, you have a long way to go. All those lessons that you picked there today, you got to implement at least 2. So this is a challenge to you. So you are here, but there's a long way to go. So as you look up, because this means that there are people who are doing better than you are. So, and that means that there's room for growth. It means that there's something that you can do better. And at that point, in fact, the other thing that I normally do every time that I'm getting all this recognition and everything is just pray to God and remind myself that I need to stay humble. I need to be to fulfill my purpose. Like when I got that phone call to be a moderator at that event, and I just said, whatever your purpose is for my life, as I go to do this, may it fulfill that purpose. So for that reason, so I want to fulfill the purpose. And I believe, like, even when I met you, I know there was a purpose for that. I know somehow there's a purpose for us meeting. And so when I'm called for these events, when I'm called for these positions, I keep saying, God, please help me fulfill the purpose for why I am doing what I'm doing today. Wow. So those are the 3 things. Congratulations. What are the lessons? And God, please help me serve your purpose.
So I just want to tell you, there's some tears welling up in these eyelinered eyes right now, hearing you talk about that, because even when the first thing you said was, good job, Grace, I don't think that we as Black women leaders, whether someone is high in their career or high in their business, do that enough. Giving yourself grace, just saying, I did a good job, that you can say, I've done a good job and still be humble. Guess what? You can say, great job, you did it. And that is saying that within humility. So I think it was so telling that that was the first thing you said. And then of course you said, okay, there's more work to be done. And then setting out that intention before your maker to say, this is help me to fulfill this with even more intention. those three things right there, I know people can take with them. Thank you for taking us to that, because I know that wasn't planned, but I really thank you. And we're getting ready to go, and I think those three are some lessons that we can leave it there. And besides me asking where they can find you, but is there anything burning in your heart, anything else that you would want to say to the women who are watching the Find Your Voice show, to Black women leaders around the globe who are finding their voice from the inside out? Anything else you'd want to say to them?
Yes. One, you are not defined by your circumstances. And you need to remember that you always have a choice, even when you don't feel like there's one. And one thing I picked today from my good friend Frida, we were at a meeting before I jump onto here, and she said something: perfection is an illusion. That hit home. So you keep progressing, my people. If you have found your voice, or you're working on finding your voice, just keep progressing a day at a time. Perfection is an illusion. Yeah.
Girl, I'm glad we're about to get off, because the tears, these things touch my heart so much. So Grace, we want to ask you, tell us where everyone who's watching this or listening to this, because we're also going to make this into a podcast, where can they find you?
So I am on LinkedIn as CHRP Grace Nzula. I am also on Facebook and Instagram as CHRP Grace Nzula. I also run an organization called Atarah Solutions, ATARAH Solutions. And we are also on social media. And of course, if you need to get in touch, you can reach me out on grace@ataraSolutions.co.ke. And we can keep growing. We can keep supporting each other in finding our voice. And thank you for the good job you're doing, Coach Vuyanzi. This is amazing.
Oh, thank you so much. And of course, we're going to put all those links, all her links will be in the description. Thank you so much, Grace, today for your time. I have been empowered by this. I am taking away so many gems. They're falling on my head. Do you see the marks on my head? Because so many gems have been dropping from Grace. Grace, thank you so much. We appreciate you.
Thank you so much, dear, and enjoy your day.